Big round of applause for Mark Fleur. Next up on our stage is Ski. Put your hands together for Ski. Hello, everyone. We were out in the woods. She was wearing a long, flowing kind of hippie dress. And she had white girl dreads. She was wearing a loose blouse, lots of beads and chains and symbols of astrology around her neck. She kind of pranced around while I followed her sullenly. I said, doesn't matter what I said. I was upset. What it came down to was, people just don't understand. And she stopped, one bare foot on the slippery rocks in the middle of a creek, and she bent down and she said, look. And we watched the water striders. And I don't know if you've ever seen water striders, but where their feet touch the water dimples, it doesn't break. And as the sunlight cast down over the water strider, you could see the divots in the water, yet its feet never pierced. She said, I sometimes wish we were all water striders, because then it would be obvious the dances that we're each doing, trying not to burst the little bubbles that we each live in, trying not to break family, or job, or happiness, or our own goals. It's hard to juggle them all, not to pierce the thin wall of water between us and drowning. Maybe if we were all water striders, and the sun was on us, we'd be able to see it in the shadows, and we'd be nicer to one another. I remember we were in a parking lot, lying on the front of a really insanely shitty Toyota Corolla in the warm sun. I was complaining about, doesn't matter what I was complaining about, but what it came down to was, it felt as if I was being pushed to do things, but I was so unsure. Everyone's telling me you gotta do something, you gotta be someone, you've gotta set a goal and go for it, but if you're unsure what you want to do, isn't that just wasting energy? Isn't that just pissing away your life as much as doing nothing? She pointed up into the sky, one arm hidden behind the long shirt that she was wearing, to a balloon floating loose up in the sky. And she said, I sometimes wish we were balloons. Balloons are expected to float, but they don't necessarily have to have a goal. And it makes it look simple, but think about that. Everyone is expected to generate energy from inside, as if out of nothing. But we're not. They have it from the sun. The balloon rises because of the sun, because of life. Maybe that's what we should be, as balloons. And then we can float. Without anybody having to tell us anything. We were out in the fields. Long prairie grasses blowing winds we couldn't see. I was complaining about, well, you guessed it, I like to complain. It doesn't really much matter about what. But basically what it boiled down to was it felt like everyone had expectations. That there were all these social urges that I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to be a guy, I'm supposed to be a man, I'm supposed to be this and that, and she's supposed to be these things. And it made all of these expectations, because really, I'm not a very stereotypical guy, and really, she wasn't a very stereotypical woman, so how are we supposed to know what expectations we had? How are we supposed to know how we were expected to deal with one another? She said, I sometimes wish we were birds. Birds fly around and they can feel with their wings when heat rises, where there's cold spots and they sink. And they learn to play these things. They don't ask what it all means. They just get higher, sink lower, move on to the next one, and thrill in the up and downs of it. We're at our house. And I was complaining about us, about her, about I. And I said, I just don't know what we are. And she said, we're flawed. And I said, that doesn't mean anything. She said, I sometimes wish we were trees. When you look at a tree and you see the ground it's growing on full of rocks, and barely there's some dirt and mud, how did that tree grow there? when it's knotted and twisted, when it sits at the edge of a cliff, leaning out, and you know that any year a storm's going to come by and just rip it right off the cliff and kill it. We don't say to the tree, "You're a shitty tree." We marvel that it's there at all, that it has managed to grow in this obviously hostile terrain. We can see its past and marvel that even though it's fallen over and half of its roots are exposed, still a handful of limbs stretch towards the sky. It constantly is trying to live, and nobody blames it for not being a better tree. I sometimes wish we were trees, she said, so you could see where I come from, the rocks that grow underneath my roots, the mud that provided almost no nutrition, how many times I've fallen over, and how I keep reaching for the sky. Are you going to blame me for not being a great person? Or could you try really hard to see the invisible things and let me be a bird? Let me be a balloon. Let me be a water strider. Let me be a tree.